Picture this. You're sitting across from her at dinner. The restaurant is loud enough that you don't have to talk. And for a second, you're grateful for that noise. Because when it's quiet, something else fills the space. And you don't know what to call it. She's laughing at something on her phone, and you catch yourself thinking, I miss her. Not her, not the version sitting right there, the her that used to feel closer. You tell yourself it's just a phase, that every long-term relationship has these lulls, that you're both just tired or busy or stressed. But underneath that, there's another thought you don't say out loud. Why does this keep happening? Am I the problem? Do I still love her, or have I just gotten used to her? Here's what nobody tells you. It's not about effort. It's not about communication guides or scheduled date nights or reading more books about relationships. The relationship didn't get harder because your love faded. It got harder because your curiosity died. Most couples stop asking questions, not because they don't care, but because they got comfortable assuming they already know the answer. And that assumption? It's the quietest form of intimacy killer there is. You're not failing at love. This is not a sign you chose the wrong person. Every couple that has ever built something real has stood exactly where you're standing, in the quiet, wondering if there's more. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what questions to ask a woman to create real intimacy, and the psychological reason why these questions work without triggering defensiveness or rejection. Not manipulation, connection. Let's get into it. Mindset reframe. Most couples believe that intimacy is built in the big moments, the anniversaries, the deep conversations, the times when something significant happens and you finally feel close again. But that's not where it actually lives. Intimacy is built in the 30-second moments, the microseconds when you either turn toward your partner or turn away. Here's what attachment science tells us, and this is the thing that changes everything. Your partner's nervous system is reading you before their mind can catch up. They are not processing your words first. They're processing your tone, your energy, the way you enter a room after you've been apart for a few hours. When you come home and you're still carrying the tension of your day, she feels that before she understands it. And her nervous system, which is always trying to predict whether you're a safe person to be close to, reads that tension as something to protect herself from. Not because you're bad, but because her system is doing what it was designed to do. Keep her from getting hurt. And here's the part most relationship advice gets completely wrong. When you try harder, when you plan more dates, say I love you more, bring up the relationship conversation more, but your emotional tone hasn't changed, your partner's nervous system actually moves further away from you. Why? Because effort without safety feels like pressure. And pressure, even when it comes from a loving place, feels like something is being asked of her, not given to her. The questions you're about to learn aren't about getting her to open up. They're about creating a specific quality of presence that makes opening up feel safe for both of you. This is the shift nobody explains. Let's get into the questions. Number 1, the safety shift. What's something you've never told me that you wish you could? Most couples go years without asking this question, not because they don't want to know, but because they assume they already know the answer. You've built a story about who she is, and that story, as comforting as it is, has a ceiling. There's a version of her you haven't met yet, and she's been waiting for you to ask. Here's the psychological truth behind this. When you ask a question like this, you're not asking for information. You're signaling something deeper. I don't assume I have you figured out. You're telling her nervous system that she's allowed to surprise you, that there are rooms in her you haven't entered, and you want to. That's not a conversation. That's safety. Picture the disconnecting version. You, how was your day? Her, it was fine. You, cool. Now picture the connecting version. You, what's something you've never told me that you wish you could? A pause. She looks up at you, not with suspicion, but with something else. Recognition, maybe. The look of someone being seen for the first time in a while. And when that happens, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to say a word. Number 2, the curiosity loop. What made you feel most like yourself this year? Here's the part no one talks about. Most couples talk about the relationship constantly. Are we okay? Do we need to work on this? Where are we headed? But they almost never ask about the individual, about who she is becoming outside of you, about what lights her up that has nothing to do with the two of you. And that absence is noticed. Her brain is quietly registering. He's interested in us, but is he interested in me? This question does something most couples never achieve. It separates her identity from the relationship identity. It says, I want to know you, not just the version of you that exists in relation to me, but the version that exists when I'm not in the room. Here's what changes everything. When a woman feels seen as an individual, when she feels like you remember she's a whole person with her own becoming, the intimacy in the relationship doesn't just deepen, it transforms. Because she's no longer answering to a role, she's showing up as herself. Real-life contrast. Disconnecting. What do you want to do this weekend? Her. I don't know, whatever you want. Connecting. What made you feel most like yourself this year? Her. Actually, I've been thinking about taking a pottery class. I never told you that because it felt stupid. And something in her is saying, I forgot what it feels like when he actually asks. Number 3, the emotional landing. When you feel distant from me, what do you actually need? This is the one most couples never figure out. They ask, what's wrong? Or, why are you pulling away? Or they say nothing, give space, wait it out. But this question, asked with genuine curiosity and zero urgency, is a different animal entirely. You're not trying to fix anything. You're asking her to map her own emotional experience. And here's what happens in her nervous system when you ask this. Something in her says, he actually wants to understand the inside of this, not just the outside. Most people in relationships confuse emotional distance with rejection. They think a partner pulling away means something bad happened. But usually, almost always, distance is not rejection. It's protection. It's a nervous system saying, I don't feel safe enough to be fully present right now. This question doesn't demand she come closer. It invites her to tell you what would make closer feel possible. Disconnecting version. You've been weird all night. What's going on? Her. Nothing. Connecting version. When you feel distant from me, what do you actually need? Her. I just need you to not try to fix it. I need you to just be there without it turning into a whole thing. And that right there, that's the shift that turns a relationship that feels like a negotiation into one that feels like a refuge. Number 4, the vulnerability bridge. What's something you're afraid to tell me? Most couples have an unspoken rule. Don't go there. Not because they don't love each other, because the vulnerability feels too high. They don't know how their partner will respond. They don't want to risk creating a conversation they can't control. So they stay on the surface, year after year. And slowly, without either of them meaning to, the relationship becomes a performance of closeness rather than the thing itself. Here's the psychological reality. Fear in a relationship is not the enemy. Fear unspoken is the enemy. Fear that never gets named becomes a wall. And walls don't just keep your partner out. They keep you stuck inside your own head, rehearsing, calculating, protecting. This question is a door. But here's the important part. It's a door she opens on her timeline, not yours. You're not demanding an answer. You're signaling that the space exists, that it's safe to use. And that signal, repeated over time, changes everything about the emotional climate of the relationship. Real-life contrast. What's something you're afraid to tell me? Her. I'm scared that you don't actually like who I am when I'm not being the easygoing one. Like, if I'm not chill and fine, you'll pull away. What moves through her in that moment? I forgot how good it feels to be chosen even when I'm not easy. And what moves through you? She's been carrying this alone for so long. That's where intimacy lives. Number 5, the future probe. What do you want our life to look like in 5 years? Now, I know what you're thinking. We've talked about the future. It gets uncomfortable. You're right, it can. But here's why most couples avoid this question. They're afraid of what they might find. Different visions, unspoken resentments, the possibility that the dream isn't shared. But you know what's worse than that fear? The drift. The slow, quiet erosion of two people who stopped pointing in the same direction because they never checked the compass. Most people in relationships spend years assuming their partner wants the same things they want, and then feel blindsided when the gap finally surfaces. This question doesn't have to be a confrontation. It can be an invitation, a way of saying, I want to know where you're going, because I want to know if I can walk there with you. Here's the deeper emotional truth. When you ask about the future, specifically when you ask about her vision of the future, you're telling her something profound. I see you as someone with a future. Not just someone who's here now, but someone who has dreams and plans and a life that's still being written. And that recognition, it hits differently than you think. Disconnecting version. Where do you see us in a few years? Her. I don't know, just together, I guess. Connecting version. What do you want our life to look like in 5 years? Her. Honestly, I want to live somewhere smaller. I want mornings that aren't rushed. I want to feel like we're building something, not just going through the motions. And something in her is saying, he actually wants to know. That's when your partner stops feeling like a problem to manage and starts feeling like a person to come home to. Number 6, the regret excavator. What's something you wish you would have said to someone in your past? Here's where it gets really interesting. This question seems like it's about her history, but it's actually about her emotional landscape, the things that shaped her, the grief she's still carrying, the words that never got spoken. Most couples don't go here. It feels too heavy, too personal. But here's what happens when you ask it with genuine care and zero judgment. You learn who she was before you. You learn what shaped her capacity for intimacy. You learn what she's still healing from, not to fix it, but to understand it, to hold it gently. This isn't a therapy session. It's a door being opened. And the psychological impact is significant. When a woman feels like you can hold her history, the painful parts, the complicated parts, without flinching, something shifts in how safe she feels with you. Not just now, for the long run. Because she's thinking, if he can hold this, he can hold me. Real life contrast. You. How was your family thing? Her. It was fine. You. What's something you wish you would have said to someone in your past? Her. My mom. I wish I would have told her that I understood why she was the way she was. Before she died. I never got to say that. You. That sounds really heavy. I'm glad you told me. And what's moving through her is this quiet sense of, he's the person I can tell the things I can't tell anyone else. That's the intimacy everyone is looking for, and it starts with asking. Number 7, the gratitude deepen. What's something I do that makes you feel most loved, that I probably don't realize I do? This one might seem simple, but don't be fooled. Most couples think they know how their partner feels loved. They operate from a mental checklist. I did nice things, she should feel loved, without ever actually asking what registers. And here's what no one explains. The way you think you're showing up and the way your partner actually feels loved are often two completely different things. This question does two things at once. It shows her that you're trying, that you're curious about the way your love lands, and it gives her language for something she's probably never articulated before. When she answers this question, really answers it, something small but significant happens. She feels like her experience matters, like you care not just about what you give, but about what she receives. And that's the foundation of real intimacy. Not just love, but seen love. Love that knows itself through being received. Disconnecting version. You. I did the dishes and took out the trash. Why aren't you in a better mood? Her. That's not what I need. He never gets it. Connecting version. You. What's something I do that makes you feel most loved, that I probably don't realize I do? Her. When you text me something random during the day, like a meme or just thinking about you, it sounds small, but it makes me feel like I'm on your mind even when we're not together. And her brain is quietly registering. He actually heard me this time. Now, here's the thing. These aren't conversation starters. They're not techniques for getting your partner to finally understand you or to do what you want them to do. These are invitations to show up differently, to be more curious, to hold space for the full person sitting across from you. And here's what happens when you internalize this. You stop performing intimacy and start being intimate. You stop waiting for your partner to change so that you can finally feel close again. And you start becoming the kind of presence that makes closeness feel possible. Not because you're doing it perfectly, but because you're showing up with genuine curiosity, again and again, even when it's uncomfortable. That's not a checklist, that's a practice. And the kind of partner who practices this? They don't just have better conversations, they have a different relationship entirely. This isn't about avoiding conflict or making everything okay. It's about building something real, something that has depth and texture, and the kind of safety that two people don't find in many places in their lives. So here's your mic drop. The intimacy you want doesn't start when you find the right person. It starts when you decide to become the kind of person who asks the right questions and genuinely wants to hear the answer. If this hit for you, if something in here felt true, drop a comment below. Tell me which question you're going to start with this week. And hit subscribe if you want more videos like this one, because we're just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.